Welcome to a short video calculating yield to maturity and yield to call for bonds using Excel and the Hewlett-Packard 10B2 financial calculator. Bonds or fixed income securities can be bought and sold on the secondary markets. However, since the current interest rates changed often, this bond might demand a greater or lesser amount of face value. If you purchase a premium bond, the current rates are lower than the fixed interest payments, like here. And the opposite would hold here. Now, both cannot occur simultaneously for the same bond. This is just an example. Now, remember, most bonds are issued at a face value of $1,000, and if they're allowed to go to the maturity date, also are valued at $1,000. Zero coupons are issued at a lower rate than face value. T-bills or treasury bills are referred to as zero coupons. Now, if an investor purchases a premium bond and holds it until maturity, he or she receives $100 payments. On this example, however, I must somehow reflect the diminishing face value over the remaining years on this bond. Now, if we look closely, you should see your 5 time value of money bits of data. Now, here they are on your calculator. Now, all you're solving for is the interest rate per year. And for Excel, it's the rate function. Now, Excel does have a yield to maturity and a yield to call function, but it requires 3 dates: issue date, settlement date, and maturity date. And settlement date is when you purchase the bond. Most books will not give us dates, so we'll use the rate function instead. Now, let us do a bond A on the financial calculator first. So bond A says I have a present value of $1,200. Now I'm going to make it negative since I am purchasing it. It has a payment of $100, has a future value of $1,000, and 14 payments. Therefore, the interest rate is 7.6264. I want to minimize this and go ahead and do it with the rate function on Excel. I'll go to Formulas in Finance and find the rate function. And now I can go ahead and grab each bits of data. I have 14 payments of $100 and a present value of a negative because it's a cash outflow, and a future value of $1,000. And there's my 7.62 and hit OK. I'm going to go ahead, and the neat thing about Excel is once I've had the data in, I can just grab this little fill bar here, this little black part here, and pull it across and recalculate bond B. Now, with a semi-annual bond, if you take a look at it, all I'm doing now is I'm going to double my N and half the payment, and when I get my answer, I'm going to go ahead and just double the interest rate to get the yearly or annual nominal return. So Finance, Formulas, and here's my rate function. I'm going to go ahead and hit 28, a payment of 50, a present value, a future value, and there's the answer here. And one thing about Excel, sometimes it likes to round up, so I go back to Home, and here I can change the percent, and I would just double this percent. And you can see it's half of that, and I again grab my fill bar, pull across, and I've got that answer as well. Now, let's go ahead and look at a callable bond. Now, bonds can be issued as a callable bond. Now, this is usually done if the current interest rates are quite high and we expect them to drop in the future, so we could reissue a bond at a lower rate. Therefore, we'll have fewer periods of payment until it's called, and the future value usually has a call premium. Therefore, your future value is going to be greater than $1,000. Now, finally, if we calculate both yield to maturity and yield to call for the same bond, an investor would expect to receive the lower amount. Remember, firms are in charge here, and firms will call the bond in order to pay a lower annual return. Now, let's go ahead and calculate these yield to calls here. Again, I'm going to go back to Formulas in Finance and go to Rate. And the yield to call on this bond would be, there's my 14 payments of $100. the present value is $1,200 negative because I'm paying it, and I'll receive this number here. So there's my answer, 7.62, and again it rounded up, so I'm going to go ahead and go to home and change that out once, and I can come here, and we know it's 7.62. Let's go ahead and grab the fill bar and see what this number is, and we look at 7.8. So in this case, it looks to me that this bond would not be called because it costs them more than to let it stay to maturity. So the investor that purchased this would receive the 7.62 and not the 7.8% interest.